episode of the Beyond the Device podcast, where we explore the life-defining moments that shape careers within the medical device industry. We are particularly interested in understanding how personal experiences, challenges, or pivotal events influence professional journeys. And as we progress through the conversation, we will eventually land on the question, what is the one defining moment that changed everything and set you on the path that you're onto today? Today's guest is the founder and managing director of MedScan3D, who are a medical 3D printing company based in Ireland. She's a passionate advocate for women in STEM, a member of Network Ireland, and a recognised leader in the medtech space, having worked for global firms such as Medtronic and Boston Scientific, and is now leading NHS trials to bring 3D printing to the point of care. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Jacqui O'Connor. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Nathan. I'm delighted to be here.
Hi there, Jacqui. Welcome to the podcast. And as always, we start with your early life. So please, can you tell us a bit about your early years and what shaped you growing up?
Sure, yeah. So my background as a child, I wasn't the most academic, I don't think. I was a bit there for the crack and for, just a bit of fun at school. But once I went to university, once I kind of found my degree in chemistry, that's really when I found my feet. I felt I was able to excel academically, which I'd never done before. In Ireland, it's called, I know in the UK it's called A-levels. In Ireland, it's called the Leaving Cert when you're in school. So I did a fairly mediocre, nothing great. But once I went to university, it's when I excelled and I got a first class honours degree in chemistry. So I think once you find your feet, that's when you can excel or apply your capabilities.
And what was the influence at school to take that direction? Was there just a passion from an early age? Was it the encouragement from a teacher?
Yeah, I think I just liked it. I think I was able to do it. I could figure out chemistry in my brain quite easily, which is kind of unusual for most people. Where sitting down doing English was nearly impossible for me. It wasn't something I could do easily. So I think it was just that I could do it without a lot of effort and just kind of lean into it, really, I think. So was there a defining moment in school? Probably not. I think it's just a realisation that I could do it and that I was good at it.
And was there any role models from early life, whether that be family, teachers? My role models was my best friend's dad when I was growing up. I didn't know it until I was an adult, but he had a big impact on me in childhood.
Yeah, I think some of my friends, my best friend particularly, she always geared herself towards what she loves. So she has her own business now as well in the fashion industry. So it's a lot different. She was very artistic, and I was always a bit jealous because I don't know about you, but artistic people are always very free when they're younger and to express themselves. So it took me longer to find my niche. So I think we've kind of traveled this journey parallel to each other, but able to support each other and kind of gear each other on. And I think you need that. You need somebody to nearly push you along and make sure you're doing the right thing, saying, have you done this? And then we just bounced off each other for all our life. We're friends since we're 7. We're best friends since we're 7. We're still best friends, which is lovely. So yeah, it's nice to share the journey, even if it's not the exact path together.
And at what point did the medical device industry become the direction for your career?
Probably about 2012. So once I left university, I went and did a gap year, like a lot of people do, to figure out what the next steps are. And I'm so glad I did, because you can't take those gap years in later life, or not as easily anyway. So I'm glad I did that. But then I went back and I started in a startup company, which actually, when I look back on, gave me so much grounding for what I'm doing now, the diversity and the change of pace and whatnot compared to university. And then I went back and did a master's. So the master's gave me that kind of credibility, I suppose, in the medical device sector. So that was in biomedical engineering. And then that was kind of the path for the next few stages of working in a multinational and then starting my own business. So I had kind of touch points to give me the grounding to start my own company.
And what we tend to find is maybe not necessarily in the moment, but when you look back, you'll see there's like a pivotal event or something happens that then kind of shapes your decisions and where you end up. Now, obviously chemistry, going to university, getting the first role into industry, to now having your own company, has there been a point for you that would be termed a turning point to get you where you are?
Yeah, for sure. I do think, before I say the turning point, I do think you need to have the background. And I do feel that a lot of younger people feel like that these pivotal moments will happen without the groundwork. And I think you have to do the groundwork. You have to do, you know, your education and get your experience and all that before you have these moments. So unless you're very lucky and something happens kind of uniquely. But for me, it was definitely having children and realizing how precious your time was. So time is the biggest commodity, I believe. And I know a lot of people in my age bracket would say the same.
Agreed.
You know, it's just as soon as you have kids,
Yeah.
you realize, I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to travel or commute for 3 hours. Or at the time I was working for Smith & Nephew as a kind of assistant within the surgeries. So not assistant, like I wasn't doing the surgeries, but I was a clinical rep for their implants. And a lot of the time you were waiting. You were just waiting to be called in or not. It might be cancelled. So I felt frustrated with that time that I wasn't utilising it, you know, in the best manner. So once you have kids, that really changes. So I remember I was on my second maternity leave. I had 2 kids under 2, which wasn't planned. And very happy that it happened, but at the time it wasn't planned. And I remember just thinking, I don't want to go back. What am I going to do? So that's where MedScan3D was kind of born, and I started it on my maternity leave, which again, I find saying that quite difficult because I don't want to put pressure on women to think you need to start a business in your maternity leave, and I think there's enough pressure on women. So it was quite organic, and I had support from my husband as well. So it was a kind of a unique situation.
And like, I've had a child in the last couple of years, and it's very time consuming, everything consuming. And obviously more so for a woman who has to then go through the changes and identity change. Lots happen. So I'd be interested to know kind of your thought process, how you were feeling at that point to then make the decision to do what you've done, because it isn't normal to do that.
Yeah. I'm not sure how normal I am. So all my friends are like, you never stop, you're always on the go. And again, I struggle with this because I don't want people to think that I'm always on the go, and because I'm not. I do crash, and I really struggle with being overloaded. I need a lot of away time. I need a lot of kind of respite from the work, and because I believe that's where kind of the creativity and the kind of new ideas come from, where the innovation comes from. So yeah, I am just the type of person that I like to do things. So I think that it's part to play with that. But also it's about just utilising my time. But like any startup, there's been ups and downs, and those downs correlate with my downtime. So I see it's very dependent on my work. Not so much in the last couple of months. In the last year, I've seen a difference, but prior to that, it's been kind of on me.
And what was the spark? Because obviously there's the spark inside you to go and do that for yourself and build your company. But what was the need that you identified? Like, why the business that you've built?
Mm-hmm. So when I worked for Smith & Nephew, I was standing in the surgeries, so for trauma orthopedics. And at the time, my husband had set up his company, which is it's a 3D printing reseller. So he sells the large manufacturing 3D printers, such as 3D Systems, Markforged. And he had the software, and I just thought, maybe there's a gap there where surgeons can utilise personalised anatomical models for surgical planning. And I basically trained myself on the software. It was Dicom to Print, which is a 3D system software, which basically takes CT or MRI scans, and you can segment them or convert them into 3D digital files that you can then print. So my thought was always, surgeons are going to use these. It's going to be amazing. But very quickly I realised that hospitals don't spend a lot of money, and it's very hard to get into a hospital setting. So I was quite naive maybe in that front. But very quickly I had customers such as Medtronic and Boston Scientific. So I think you said earlier that I worked for them. I never worked for them. They're customers of mine. So I had the 2 largest blue chip companies as a customer within a couple of months, which potentially was luck or just being at the right place at the right time. I don't know. So then I was able to build on that. So 90% of our customers are medical device companies. So they utilise the models for their medical device testing from concept right up to marketing and all in between. And I'm still trying to work on the hospital. So we've started trials, but it's taken 5 years to get to that stage.
And obviously, from starting the company, having your children, how were you feeling at that point?
At the start?
Yeah, just to get it from nothing to obviously the first year or two with your children being young, with what comes with it. How were you feeling at that point?
I think it's more retrospective. In the moment, you don't see it as much. It's kind of, you're just doing it. But I got a lot of recognition very early, and I liked it. I wasn't adverse to it. I was like, that's great. People are thinking that I'm doing great things. There was a little bit of imposter syndrome, definitely, and I think females tend to suffer from that. You know, they're like, no, it's sure. Especially Irish people, we're not very cocky. We're like, oh, sure, that's nothing, or no, sure. You know, you just don't want to play up to it. But I actually am now leaning into that because I'm like, okay, I'm going to, you know, people comment on my LinkedIn quite a lot. They're like, oh, you know, you're always on it. But for me, it's about utilizing the marketing and making it credible that we know what we're doing, which we do now. But at the start, you're kind of trying to figure it out. So you're shying away from that a little bit. So, but I felt quite empowered. I felt, because I have 3 girls. So for me, it's great that I can hopefully show them that anything is possible, that you can put your mind to. So for me, it was empowering, I suppose.
And are there any specific lessons that you've taken from that period?
Oh, just be patient with yourself and with the world. I mean, change doesn't come overnight, I think, and I'm quite impatient as a person, so I think it's about giving yourself the breathing space and understanding that things don't change very quickly. So yeah, I need to still learn that, but I think entrepreneurs in general are quite impatient, as maybe by nature. But yeah, I think that's my biggest downfall, and probably there's a flip side. There's an up and down.
Yeah, I get that.
You feel like it feels like you're quite reflective over that period and the lessons that you've taken from it. But when you're in it, you don't really realise. But now with that experience looking ahead, what we talk about on this podcast is habits and tools, whether they're conscious or subconscious, around managing your time, managing your mental health. So as a founder of a business, a mother of 3, and everything else you've got going on in your life, just day to day, how do you manage your mental health?
I think it's just etching out time for exercise is a big part of what I want to do. So I was at the gym this morning. Usually we'll take turns. So me and my husband, he's an ex-rower and rowed for Ireland, so he has this mentality anyway. So I've kind of like robbed that off him, because I can see the difference. You know, if you get moving, then your brain is just fresher, and so for me that's a really big part of it. And also just having downtime, having time away. I'm not a founder that's constantly in the office. It doesn't suit me. I'm better off to be away, but I'm behind everything. I'm still thinking. So time away, and yeah, just time. I don't check my emails on the weekend, which is probably not something I could say. But unless it's like I'll have a quick look, but I'm not on the computer unless I absolutely have to. I think it's not important to be on it all the time. It doesn't make sense.
If I reflect on the last nearly 5 years now of Capu, there was a period. I think maybe Nathan bought me the watch. Did you buy me an Apple Watch?
I did. I also had one and got rid of it very quickly.
I got rid of it as well.
The emails on your wrist, you think, I look at my phone enough, I look at my laptop, I need that break. But yeah, I find that exercise for me is the foundation of everything. Maybe I put too much pressure on that, because if I got an injury, maybe the house would fall down. I don't know. But
Yes.
do you find...
It'd be an interesting study to look at entrepreneurs and founders and exercise, because I think there's a correlation for sure. I'm pretty sure of it.
And as parents, do you feel like that pillar of exercise is now you're acting as role models to your children?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I'm not an athlete, but the kids know. They're like, oh, you going for a run? They'll see the trainers, going on, or it's about just carving that time out and making it a habit. I mean, there's times where I'm like, I just don't want to do it, but it's important for them to see it as well, and we make sure that they know that for them it's important it's really for their mental health. I mean, okay, the benefits of having a better physique, of course, is great, but it's the mental side of it. Like my mental health is so much better if I've gone to the gym or gone to a class or whatever
But
it is.
also, and I'm sure they'll see
Is
this when
that
they're older, the fact that you're
Yeah.
running a business, but have also carved out that time where you're not that founder CEO, you're the parent, you're the wife, and you've protected that time. I think that's a great example to set as well. Um, is there anyone that you particularly lean on in hard times? We've talked on this podcast about having a personal board of directors. These can be ex-colleagues, mentors, partners, but like, who do you really lean on in those times?
It would probably be my husband because we're business partners, you know, so if we go out for dinner, it's what we talk about, you know, but we enjoy it. It's not like we're slogging through like numbers. We're talking about next steps or what are we going to do. So he would be a massive support on all levels, really, and because we understand each other. But then externally, I'd intermittently have a coach who I'd sit through with and talk about kind of the next 3, 6, 9 months and kind of working backwards. Okay, in a year's time, what do you want to achieve? And then working back from that. And because Lorraine is her name, she would look at my life as a whole. She doesn't just look at the business. She'd look at, okay, what's happening in life? Oh, you've got your kid's communion or you've got something coming up. So that's going to take a lot of time. So I like that because you're not just one thing, you're 10 things. So, and understanding that. So having those external supports is really important.
Yeah, I put a poll out on LinkedIn a few months ago because I was exploring coaching options, whether that was physical, business, mental. I was just interested in it. And a lot of the people that had said they'd engaged with a coach were the entrepreneurs. And I guess what I took from that was if you're employed, then perhaps you see your line manager as your mentor and you've got more structure from a career path within employment. But you lose that working for yourself to actually go out and seek it. It felt like a lot more entrepreneurs were open-minded to that. And how long have you been doing that for?
Yeah, I think so. So it's intermittent. So we usually stop in the summer because it's just a bit too ad hoc so I haven't actually come back. But yeah, so we'll probably go back now in the next couple of weeks and I might do like a 3-4 month stint. And again, I'll taper off because other things might take priority. But also I go to therapy. So for personally, I think it's really good to make sure that your mental state is in a good place, you know, for lots of different reasons. So for me, that's really important. So that I don't get too anxious or get too because overwhelm is a thing as well that can happen for me anyway. But I imagine for a lot of entrepreneurs that there's a lot happening at once. So that's another kind of pillar that I lean on, and I do that every second week for an hour. And I always kind of nearly dread it because I'm like, oh, because it's a lot, and it's usually in the middle of the day, and I'm like, I don't have time for this, and then I do it, and I'm like, oh, that's amazing. You just feel lighter. So I think having all these things are just a way to support yourself so that you don't crumble under the
I had
pressure.
therapy this morning for an hour,
Okay.
you come out of some sessions and go, I did not think I was going to talk about that today. but
That's why you're so zen
exactly,
now.
So just to close off this section, is there any advice that you would give to someone facing their own turning point or life challenge?
Yeah, there's a really good podcast with, I think it's Michelle Obama, and she talks about having these turning points happen, you know, kind of sometimes unknowing to us, but then also sometimes knowingly, like you're going to have a baby, so your life is going to change. I think that's where the therapy comes in. She said, like, without that support, it's really hard to know and to navigate what direction to go in. So for me, it would be getting that support either through a counselling session or coaching, or even a friend can only give you so much because they know you so well. But yeah, if you can have that person, be it personally or externally, find them.
And looking back at your turning point, having children, setting up your company, how has that directly impacted the way in which you just approach your work on a day-to-day basis? I'm just like, get it done. I'm diligent about my time. I will not sit in the office and just flick on my phone, or sometimes it's a bad thing because sometimes you just want to, like, even going for a coffee. So I make sure that I do that if like someone's in the office and they want to go for coffee. I'm like, oh, okay, you know. But I think just the time, I'm diligent about that. And then I delegate a lot as well. So this is something my husband James doesn't do. I feel like, you need to delegate more.
So for me, it's having your team that you can delegate to. So it's time. It comes back to time always.
And what do you think the industry can learn from a story like yours, based on where you started out? Well, think about from school, university, through to the first entry into medical devices to owning your own company. Is there a lesson in that?
Yeah, I think just, especially if you have babies, I think there is maybe a subconscious bias, maybe that, oh, well, she's going to be really focused on her family now, which I am, but it actually expands what you can do. So I think not giving up on women in that time of their life, because they have so much to give. And what actually they do give is probably tenfold of what I gave in my 20s. So it's, I'd hope that, and I do see the big companies doing this, that they're supporting women coming back either from a career break or for maternity leave. But also if men took that as well, sometimes I feel sorry for you guys because you don't get that time. So you're just constantly going. So you never get those breaks, even though you're at home with a baby. But and women are just more inclined to take a career break. Like I have a friend now and she's on a career break. It's very rarely you see a man doing it. So that's a question I'd love to understand why men, maybe it's because they feel like they're like not rising to the challenge or something. I don't know.
I think whenever I've spoken to maybe friends who had babies similar time to us and just people we work with, I've always felt quite fortunate that I work for myself. I took extended time off, always at home. But it was intentional. Like I had the plan before I had kids, was I don't want to be working for someone when I've had children. But yeah, it's tough because the early years are so important from a bonding perspective. And yeah, just 5 days a week in an office, traveling, it just must be so hard.
Yeah. But you had that forward thinking, which is rare, I think, for a man anyway, that they don't generally think anything's going to change.
I don't think about the weekend and what I'm doing, but for some reason thought about that.
I took a break at the start of the year. So I lost my dad at the end of last year, and we had these plans of going to South America. And again, because of the freedom that we had with the business, like me and my wife had been married coming up 2 years at that point and had discussed children, but there was things that we wanted to do before that. And there were so many reasons why we shouldn't have gone on that trip, or very easy excuses. But she quit her job, I worked remotely and got things done, and I've now been back for as long as we were gone. And I look back on that and think it would have been such an easy trip not to do, but so glad I did it at this stage, because you feel right, I've scratched that itch, now excited for the next stage. And again, that's a very privileged position to be in, but it's because 5 years ago we took that risk to start the business, knowing that commercially the business was going to work, but it was the freedom that we would get. And as you've pointed out, that commodity of time is so important. And that's probably the main thing that I've got out of working for myself.
Yeah, and I'm conscious that we're talking about a lot of privilege here. So with therapy or coaches, this all costs money. But my background, I come from a very working class background. Out of my group of friends at home, I was the only one who went to university. We didn't have much money growing up. My dad had to move to the UK for work. So I just want to ensure that, I think people sometimes think you have to kind of come from something to build something. I'm proof in the pudding that you don't have to be. I just think you have to maybe find the grooves a little bit. It might be a little bit harder to see, but they're there and you can definitely build on it. It might just be as easy at the start, but you build resilience in as well. So yeah, that's something that I'm aware of as well.
So looking ahead to the future, thinking about you, the person, your business, maybe they're the same for a lot of aspects. Like, what is the future for you?
Yeah, we're at a little bit of a crossroads at the moment because we could potentially go for investments, but I'm very nervous about it because it might take away from our time and freedom a little bit of, being agile and, ramping up when we need to. Whereas if someone has put investment in, then they're going to look for a return. So yeah, we're at this crossroads at the moment. So it's about whether or not we take the opportunity. And there's some days I really want to do it, and then there's other days I'm like, I don't know. There's a fear, because you've heard so many horror stories about investment and you never seeing your kids for 3 years or something until it all ends. So that's kind of where I'm at the moment. But we're in a really good position financially as a family. We've bought our forever home. We're in it. So there's no kind of big. Usually you have like something big coming up. So we're like, no, we have all our kids. Everyone's healthy. So, and the kids are a little bit older now. So they're all in school, and so maybe there's more time to give. It's just about how I spend that time, whether I ramp it up or keep it the same organically. I don't know. So watch this space maybe.
Yeah, it's weighing up as sort of Duncan said, around the freedom and stuff on your terms versus revenue and what that then brings. In terms of the industry as a whole, what excites you most about medtech?
Well, because the space we're in, which is the personalised healthcare, and innovating in the clinical space, I think there is a big shift to personalising medical healthcare, be it on a pharmaceutical level right up to a planning sector, which is where we're in. So the trajectory is set to grow by, I think, 15% CAGR or something like that. So we're on that cusp, and that's why I think we should probably look for investment so that we can grow rapidly with it. But yeah, there's so many exciting things, and AI is obviously a big impactor in that, which we're now starting some projects in, and working with sensor technology. So there's lots happening, and I think in the medtech world it's forever moving as well. And where we're positioned in Ireland, we're in Galway, so it's kind of the medtech centre of Europe. So it's great. We're next door to all the big guys, which we can try and utilise.
Very good. And we close with a key lesson. So for our listeners that are all on their own journeys and listening to this, I've taken so many lessons from this myself, probably the main one being just back yourself. And again, I feel like I've made those decisions through my own journey where it would be easier to stay put or not do something, but actually you get to the other side and you look back and think, wow, that was the right decision. So if you were to leave our listeners with one key lesson, what would that be?
It would be just prioritise yourself ruthlessly, and yourself being your either your family or your work, but all of it. You just need to prioritise what's important to you, and you have to give up something. So this doesn't come with compromise. You have to give up. Maybe it's time, social time, or maybe it's sleep. I don't know. It's something you do. Something has to give. But I think once it's worth it, and you can see the reason behind it, it's worth it. Then in the end. So yeah, prioritise time ruthlessly.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for coming on and sharing your story. It's been really insightful and lots of lessons, as I said. I invite all listeners, as always, to reflect on their own turning points. And if you think you've got a story to share, please reach out to myself and Nathan. But in the meantime, please like and subscribe across YouTube and Spotify. And we'll be back next time with another episode of Beyond the Device. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jacqui. Thank you.
Thanks, Nathan. Thanks, Duncan.